welcome to MPowered Podcast with Michael and Mariyln. I am Michael Anthony.
And I'm Mariyln Egan.
And we are actually on our season finale, the first season, number 12.
Wow, yes.
Wow.
12.
It gives me kind of chills. I'm going to miss this next month not doing this.
I know.
So we're here almost at Thanksgiving, and when we were saying, "Hey, Mariyln, how do we want to end this?" We were sort of looking at taking everything that we had sort of talked about over the year or over the season, and we're staring 2019 right in the face.
Yes.
And we decided or chose to create our last podcast for the season. In creating 2019 really powerfully. And the best way that I know how to do that is to create that through feeling.
Yes.
How we want that to feel. Not so much the pieces of it, but how we want that to feel. And you said, Michael, we have to have my friend Courtney on. And so I would like you to introduce our special guest for today and explain.
Yes. Courtney is a great friend of mine. She is also an energy teacher, an energy worker, and a brilliant speaker. So I'm actually going to let you tell a little about your business. This is Courtney Blaine. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. So I do energy work. My biggest passion right now is working with women, and we are working on awakening the divine feminine and in turn awakening the divine masculine within each of them. And I have a priestess program that I run. It's a 2-year program. And we work in the esoteric realms. It's very similar to old mystery school teachings and awakening the different lineages and esoteric knowledge. So that's my love.
There we go. Yes.
So when you're looking at creating, have you already started to create 2019?
Yeah. I'm creating 2019 for sure.
I know it's contextual because there's just now.
Mm-hmm.
There's always just now.
Right.
But in the big scheme of things, I believe it's really powerful to put things out there.
Absolutely.
Because that is how it starts to manifest. And that's what we wanted to do today is give our listeners a sense of, okay, yes, we're going to be doing this from the feeling place, but here's the how to prepare somebody to get into that vibe, because our whole world is so mental,
right,
and doing and accomplishment and sort of leaving that all in the past. Not that won't be a result, because it definitely will be, but it's just not the focus.
Right.
The focus is, okay, because you could give your goal could be to get a car or a new, something new in our life. Mm-hmm. But that how somebody's going to feel in that new thing. Some people might be really elated, and some people might I have a car payment. Or, right. Do you see what I'm saying with the feeling aspect of it?
Absolutely.
So that's why I wanted to bring you on today to
Yeah.
help guide us through these spaces.
For sure. Yeah.
And tell us how to begin. We have this, we usually have a little, yes, it's crazy around the holidays, true, mm-hmm. But there's also some spaces so we can reflect and
big time
take some time. I'm literally with me and my team, we're actually taking an entire day in December, and we're going to create our our financials and what we want to create for our businesses, and we're taking the whole time off for that. So we're talking about our whole life.
Right.
For a year.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, and so, our ancestors knew this, intuitively, right? So indigenous people, they used to have their whole wheel of the year timed for this time of the year. So the harvest just came, they just reaped the bounty and the abundance, and so now they're moving into the womb of the mother. And what happens in the womb of the mother? Well, we plant our seeds that we want to manifest. We start to really cultivate that soil, really work through, and if you just envision that as this time of the year, even though it gets crazy, even though we kind of get all spiraled up with all this extra energy, what do we really want to create? What do we really want to experience in the year coming? And nurture ourselves through that darker time. You know, the days are getting shorter. It's totally energetically, it parallels us entering into the womb of what we want to create. So I think this is really actually a very magical time for us. It's a very powerful time. It's not the time that that we're out there in the spring and reaping, you know, starting to reap or starting to really plant and seeing the grass come up. It's that time that we get really still and we get really quiet and we go inward and we really think about what it is that we want to manifest. So when we talk about manifesting, I love what you said. So the feeling place is actually the feminine energy. So we have the masculine and the feminine, and we need both. The masculine energy is that doing. It's that going out there. It's that projection energy. It's the making it happen. The way I describe it is it's like the masculine is kind of like this cup, right? The cup is like the container. And then inside is the feminine energy. It's all the feeling, the fluid, the energy inside of that. And we have to have both in conjunction. And it doesn't mean necessarily masculine, feminine in relationship to gender or sex. It's about what's inside of all of us. So we have to have those two in balance. And that's really what's coming in for this next year. You know, we've been in this 11 vibration all year long.
What's
And
next year?
Next year is really, I feel like, kind of the beginning of that union. You know, we've saw the rise of the divine feminine right now. We've seen the Me Too movement happening. We've seen all of this, you know, kind of rising up right now, taking a voice, taking the power back. And it's a necessary piece of what we have to do evolutionary in a consciousness level to move into bringing the masculine now into balance, because the feminine was pushed down so much. We have all of this kind of patriarchal paradigm that's been kind of existing in our platform and in our world. And part of that we see in like the shadow that's been, you know, kind of coming up. So 2 years ago we had disclosure as our word, you know, and so we saw disclosure happen, right? Mm-hmm. We saw a president that came in that literally is a shadow president, right? We've seen all kinds of stuff that we don't necessarily want to see in our world, right? Yeah. And so, you know, we don't want to get into the dark place of that, but there is this, there's been this polarity and this duality that's been playing out. And so what we're doing now is we're on the cutting edge, the leading edge of really co-creating what we want to experience in the next days ahead. And really 2019, I think, is going to be key for all of that.
I'm happy that you brought that up. The shadow, the nice orange shadow. Because I've found that is sort of been a stop. So I want to play along today. Is that okay?
Yeah,
we just, like,
I'm totally.
Are you open to?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be your students.
Okay.
So, so part of creating is, you know, the first thing is like, I want this, I want that, I want to feel like this, I want to feel like that, but there's this crap that's happening out there, the shadow stuff that's emerging.
Right.
I totally acknowledge what you said, and that is so true, and I don't want to look at it. No. I don't want to focus on that.
Right.
But the reality is I know that it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that, but I'd 10 times rather know somebody I'd rather them come out and say it.
Exactly.
I'd rather not to, I don't want to give the impression of less than, or I don't think that there's anything wrong with somebody expressing whatever it is, ever how vile that, you know, a racist comment is, or degrading a human being. Like, I can't fathom doing that as a human being.
Right.
But I understand that there are people out there that express this, and or ever how conscious they are using it to manipulate other people that are at that vibration. And because you can't be controlled unless you live in fear. Like, if you're not in fear, you can't be controlled.
Right.
You see right through it.
Totally.
So we're all sitting around pretending that we don't see that because we're not vocal about it. I mean, some people are, but not as a whole. Not like you see on the other side.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah.
And that's a barrier. I like looking in my life, and I'm like, how much can I create when the whole world's falling apart?
Yes,
Right?
yes, and that's
Like,
really where
okay.
a lot of people are feeling right now. But there's those of us also that know, we've seen glimpses, just like what you were talking about the last podcast. You know, when you're tapped into Abraham, that's higher dimensional stuff, right? So she's pulling in this information that you're just like, and just like, I love that visual that you provided of you with your Walkman, because it's like, yeah, okay, I'm there. Like, I'm in, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th dimension, and I'm like feeling it. And then take the headphones off, and bam, 3D, 4D is like smacking you in the face, right? And so, to response to what you said, we have all been aware and not talked about that insidious energy that's been going on for a while, right? So part of what has to happen is those systems, the manipulation, the fear, the control base, has to get torn away. And how does it get torn away? Well, we have to see it first. And that's kind of what's been happening. The shadow's been revealed to all of us. You know, a lot of us didn't want to think that there was racism like that happening on our planet anymore. Well,
Right.
hello.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Black Lives Matter, that whole movement, in my opinion, had to take place, because we can't just continue to spiritually bypass and ignore what needs to come up to the surface in order for that to come back into equality. We have to have that balance of light and dark, right? We have to bring that duality to come crashing down before we move into the 5D. Because what's 5D? Well, 5D is not having any judgment. You know, all of us are unity, you know, complete oneness. Well, we can't have complete oneness if we're ignoring this insidious energy that's been kind of recurring over here and not really acknowledging it. So it has to come to the surface to be healed and to be released. Same with the feminine, you know, the feminine more so because of the patriarchal. You know, we don't talk about patriarchal being necessarily masculine energy. It's that religious patriarchal that deemed that women were wrong. You know, that's where they started to break up the women's circles that used to happen in the days of old. You know, the women used to go off into the woods and, you know, gather together and connect and create community. The feminine is all about co-creation and community and moving into this co-creative space with one another, just like what you were saying about the peace place.
Yes.
How did you manifest the peace place? Well, it wasn't just you.
Right.
It was a community of people that were rising up to help you co-create that.
Yes.
And I think that's really the energies that we're moving into, is like we've evolved past wanting to manifest a, you know, $100,000 car, really.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of like old paradigm stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, I get that you want luxury and finery and things like that, and no one's saying you can't have that, but what's the real intention here of what you want to create? What is going to make you feel connected, love, unconditional love? And that is through community. That's through connection. That's through, outside of kind of this money paradigm system that's starting to crumble as well.
Yes. It's funny that you mentioned the peace place in that, because that's really what I wanted, was an energy community.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened there. We had the Abraham circles for a year, and actually this podcast
Yeah.
oriented
That's how it started.
from that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
'Cause
Yes.
I don't channel the same way that Esther does.
Yeah.
Because they'll only come through Esther that way.
Yeah.
Just on the planet. But I hear them.
Sure.
They're right in my
Yes.
ear anytime that I need them.
I get it.
They're right there.
Yeah.
So we did the classes,
For-
and they were awesome.
Yeah,
Those
like
classes,
2 to 3 a month for a full
like,
year.
for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just like a light switch that says, okay, you're done with this part. And it was about, I think it was training us to work
Yes.
together.
Now we're doing this circle.
Right.
It just can
And
go
it's
to wherever it
expanding.
wants to,
Yeah.
Yes.
whenever it wants to. I
Right.
don't understand how the people hear it or podcast, but we just,
You don't
Yeah.
I
have to.
was told, like, no
Yeah.
kidding, about 3 weeks ago, because I watched on the back end, because we're about 1,500 downloads so far, which is, I think
That's
it's great for, we
amazing.
just starting a grassroots sort of thing.
Yeah, how beautiful is
And
that?
and somehow I was told, like, watch when that pops out of when people start listening outside of the United States. And last week was our first one. We had 2 in Finland.
Yes.
We had 2 in
Germany.
and 2 in Australia.
That's exciting.
I have no idea that's happening,
Yeah.
but
Right.
that's the whole point. And like, I'm just even now starting to feel my body open up to, like,
Right. The
What-
magnitude
what
of the
we're doing.
change and how this
Yeah.
fits.
Yeah.
And then we're also holding the small community circles there also.
Right.
I've got, and you've even held circles there.
Yeah.
So it's just keeps growing and the circles keep connecting.
Yes.
And
Yeah, so I mean, it's really exciting times. I mean, it's kind of, what's that saying? It's the best of times and the worst of times.
Yes.
And that really parallels to the duality that we're seeing. And that's why I think, talking about 2019, as we continue to see some of these systems fall away, it's going to be critical for us to really focus on what it is that we want to see come to pass, what we want to see manifest, what we want to see come fruition. Because, we can get caught in the stuff that's falling away. We can get caught in the kind of stickiness of everything. But I think also, too, big piece of it is us taking back our voice as a collective, as light workers. We've been deemed light workers, and sometimes I have a problem with that phrase, and it's almost kind of like coming into this like light warriorship, because we're seeing the I think that's where some of the energy with the divine feminine that's arisen in the last probably a few months has been difficult for some to feel or to receive, because they're feeling like it's maybe a feminist movement or it's too much, but the thing is that whole wisdom teaching about the dark feminine has been so suppressed and so misunderstood, that it's like she's needed to come up and really show herself. So it is the Kali, Ma taking
Right.
taking her sword out and standing in that really powerful, sovereign, truthful place. And, I think what we're going to start to see is we're going to start to see a huge movement with Indigenous, and especially women of color are starting to take their voice back and starting to take their rightful place, because they were the first wisdom keepers on this planet.
yes.
And they need their voice reestablished. And so that's what I'm really passionate about right now, is coming into how do we clear the space for them to step into their roles.
Something clear, because there was 2 that was elected to
I know.
the
Yes.
House of Representatives for the first time.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
really
it's
starting
amazing.
to clear. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Because I mean, if we think about just in the teachings, so in Dodona, the oracle space in Greece, they talked about the tree there and the doves that did their oracular messages. Well, they described them as the black doves. So what they believe is, and that the word that they used to call was Pleiades, or Pleiades is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And so, what do we know that to be? Pleiadian, the Pleiadian star system. And so they were these oracular women that were Indigenous women, and they were, bringing forth that divine feminine energy, and that wisdom. So yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of that happen right
Yes.
now.
So would you actually call this 2019 a time of healing?
I think it's a time of oh gosh, how would we call that? I would say probably it's about really returning the voice, and then the other piece that's really coming into play is the balance of the divine feminine and divine
Right.
masculine. So we need this divine feminine to come back into her rightful place, because then the masculine can arise. And the reason being is because a lot of times that masculine energy will overshadow the feminine, right? So it's about that feeling place, what you were talking about with manifesting. So if we're too much in the doing, if we're too much in our head, if we're too much, grabbing our vision board and like creating all of this, specific things, we're gonna miss the movement of where spirit's actually moving and shifting us to be. And kind of like what you were talking about, it's like you do the circles for a period of time, and then it's like all of a sudden guidance is like, okay, you're done here, now this next thing. And I think that's key for us to really awaken that feeling place, because when we can awaken in that, everything's going to be incongruent, and then we'll be able to answer that call when it's like, okay, energy here is done, I've completed, and now I'm moving on to the next thing.
Perfect. So can you clarify again for people listening that this is new for, that we're not talking necessarily about men and women. Mm-hmm. We are talking about the energy that every human holds.
Right, yeah. So every being has masculine and feminine energy. This is the whole concept of the Kundalini rising, right? We've got both sides of it. And so what happened when the patriarchal took over, they took a kind of like a slaughtering, so to speak, of any kind of feminine power, any kind of feminine wisdom, any kind of feminine teachings. And so when we talk about the divine feminine rising, we're seeing that breakdown of the patriarchal, which is the religious paradigm. It's the old religious teachings. The stuff that doesn't make you feel good, you can just feel in your energy that it's just heavy. The pieces of judgment, of calling something evil or wrong, calling a person evil or wrong. Like we can't hold those frequencies in our being and move into 5D. It's too dense. So we have to come into this place of where all of that just kind of comes up to be healed, transmuted, and then we can move into those higher dimensional frequencies. So yeah, so it's every person is either operating with a tendency to be more masculine or more feminine. So if you're in that feminine balance, you could be, too, loosey-goosey, or, if somebody that's, I like to think of like in a spiritual concept where they're just not grounded, they're just always kind of woo-woo, and like there's no real container there. They're just floating, nothing gets really created. It's just kind of this airy-fairy kind of energy.
I lived there for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
I loved it there.
Yeah.
But
But you can't manifest anything there.
You can't, and you can't ground anything and be in this reality for So, and a lot of us as light workers, we love that place because
it's like crack.
it feels good.
not that I know what that is, but like
And
it's
a lot of
addictive.
us-
It's addictive.
It is, and a lot of us that channel easily or, receive messages easily, it's very easy for us to check out of our bodies and go to those higher dimensions. We can just go whoop and be gone.
Right. Right.
But the problem is like you said, and not that it's a problem, but we want to actually create and co-create. There's a reason why we're all here at this time.
Well,
Yes.
perfect. Why are we here?
Why are we here? Well,
At this time.
at this time, yeah.
Because I mean, a lot
Yes.
of people checked out.
A lot of people
are
have
checking
checked out.
Yeah, and people are getting the opportunity to exit. So we're seeing a lot of people,
Or choose to stay.
Or
check
choose to
out.
stay.
Yeah, right. We're seeing both, I personally believe, especially those of us that have been on this path of awakening and that we're waking up, that we are here really to anchor the frequencies so that we start to see this new world paradigm that we all know is possible. And part of that is in co-creation and manifesting what we truly want to feel, experience, be, and do.
Well,
Beautiful.
I totally.
so true.
I want to dive into creating 2019.
Yes.
Like how can having all of that said
Yes.
as our jumping off point.
Right.
And I totally get it, and it makes total sense. And then now,
Yeah. So 2019.
Yeah, because like when you were talking before, I was like, okay, what do I really want? And it's like, I don't really want anything.
Right.
I want everything to be, I want to, have a house and a roof over my head and be able to eat good food and exercise and breathe clean air and hang with people and make, like I do love doing real estate and, that's one thing. Another thing, not to go off on a tangent, but like when you said connecting, our whole world in real estate is switched to digital. Like, it's not connective.
No.
An old school way used to be we went and knocked on doors and we would call people and connect with them. And I just took on 2 weeks ago that's what I was going to do next year. Was I was going to start walking through neighborhoods, not for business.
Yeah, just to connect.
Just to connect.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, like,
I love it.
I could just visualize myself like knocking on the door. Like I live in Tower Grove. I love Tower Grove.
Oh, I love Tower
that.
Grove. I used to live in Tower Grove. Love it.
It's such
One of the
in
best
everything
places.
around that park.
It is.
I
Yeah.
must have lived a life there.
I
There's
agree.
something about it.
I agree. Those trees
Something
are
about it.
ancient wisdom keepers there.
Oh,
Yes.
I get chills just thinking
I know.
about it. So that would be the greatest thing in the world to just walk around and but a year ago or when I started in real estate, that would have scared the
No
holy
way.
shit
Yeah.
out of me to go knock on somebody's door
Right.
that doesn't know me. And now I just want to go, hey, I'm your neighbor.
Right.
I'm in real estate. If you ever need anything, just wanted to let you know that you have a neighbor here to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just connect.
Right.
And I want to give them something, but I don't know what that is yet. But like, I
Right.
can just see like an exchange of energy,
Yeah.
and it was not. Does that make sense?
Totally. Not to
Yes.
get business, but just to make the connection.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I really resonated that. But
Yeah.
in creating the, what we want for our life, like where's the line? Like,
Well, and I think that's part of what's happening with a lot of people is that, everybody's kind of like, well, what do I want? Like, what is it that I really want? Like, they're seeing all this stuff happen right now, and they're like, okay, what do I want? Well, I think what you were speaking on, you want clean water. You want connection.
Right.
You want community. You want to experience life. You want adventure. You want to be close to Gaia, to Mother Earth. You want to be touching your feet. That I think there's such a movement right now, and the millennials, in my opinion, exactly are tuned in and tapped in
Yes.
to what
They are.
they are. They get it. They're like, okay, I want land. I want a tiny house because I don't want to fill it with stuff because I know stuff is not going to make me happy. I want experience.
Yes.
I want experience that's going to open my soul. I want adventure. I want to see the world. I want to connect with other human beings. And I think it's crucial in a way that we tune into that energy, because that's what's actually, it's like maybe that's what it is. We've elevated to where we're not manifesting any longer for just us individually, but
Oh
it's
my
for
God.
the whole collective and the
Yes.
planet. And I'm getting
Yes.
total
I'm
chills.
total chills.
Yes, me too.
Right.
Me
Holy
too.
crap.
I totally got chills. Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's what it is. I
Yeah.
think we all know. It's like
Uh-huh.
I Florida and that whole area, there's an island there that's so sacred to me down in Florida. And when I saw all of the things that were happening with the water, this is something that I felt very called to with water anyway. And I'm just, it's like I'm weeping inside, and I'm seeing this happening, and I'm seeing these dolphins dead, and and not to get into that dense energy, but it's like we have to open our eyes and see it. We can't just be up here going, okay,
Oblivious.
I'm just going to go into the Akashic Records now and tune in what I want for tomorrow. Yeah, we need to do that, but we also, it's like now is boots on the ground time. It's
Yes.
like it's time for us to really anchor in and be like, okay, you know what? I'm done with this. Like, this is what we're creating now. And I think
Yes.
that's where some of that light warrior energy is coming in for all of us.
Yeah, I believe that. And we've got to be on the ground with this high vibration
Yes.
belief and thoughts and knowingness
Yes.
that this can change And that by looking at it and
Mm-hmm.
and holding space for the healing, or taking whatever action we are drawn to take,
Right.
is what's going to work. We have to be connected both ways and then find a way to weave them together.
Yeah, it's the esoteric teaching, as above, so,
So
below,
below.
as within, so without, right?
Yes.
I mean, it is, and
Yes.
it's like, did you write
That's
that?
the one, probably
love
the
it.
one note we had on this podcast.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
That's it.
This is it. I love it.
Yeah.
But
Oh my
yeah,
God.
So-
but it's that feeling place, and that's, you know, it's so maybe that's what it is. We all just tune into, what do we want our world to feel like?
Yes, that's what I was going to say exactly. Isn't that to make this simple
And how do
for
I fit into
everybody
that?
listening?
Yeah.
Instead of me, individual, it's like
Yes.
How
as
can
you
I
said
be
that,
of
as soon as you
service?
said shift to what do I want for the world,
Yes.
I just
I
was
know,
like,
I
my
got goosebumps saying
whole
it again.
body was shooting off. Like,
Yeah.
then I saw a million possibilities for connecting with people. I
Yeah.
saw like,
Yes. Well,
and then how can
And I'm getting that we're actually like, as we step into that awareness,
yes.
it's like that's how we come into oneness
Right.
and unity consciousness, because that's where we have to be. We're now manifesting. It's like, you know, they can call it like, and I don't even want to say hive mindset, but that's sometimes used in that whole old esoteric, well, not old, but esoteric knowledge of like the honeybee and the honeycomb, and how each person has their own, you know, container that they're building, and how it cohesively comes together in community, you know.
well, this just changed my whole world.
Yeah.
I love
so,
it. That is the thing, and I think that we needed to stay in that space of not being okay with not knowing.
Yes.
Because I would have never saw this coming.
yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
Like, seriously, that's it. It's
Yeah.
not about. It's what I want for the world,
Right.
and then how do I fit into that?
Yeah. And that's where, like, when we talked about in the beginning, I think, and they're kind of having me circle back to this, is like the clairs. So it's like, you know, the claircognizant, the clair, you know, sentient, all that kind of stuff. You know, all of that is awakening for this purpose. So it's like, it's no longer optional for us to just, like, not have connection with divine, you know, like we have to awaken our intuition. We need to awaken into this this understanding and knowing within us.
And everyone is capable.
Absolutely. Everyone is called.
Yes.
There is no one
Otherwise, you wouldn't
person.
be here.
No, right. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And the awakening is an awakening of remembrance.
Yes.
You're coming back to remembering who you are. You know, that's what it is. Every piece that you resonate with, every wisdom teaching, every, you know, Abraham Hicks, you know, message that you hear, it's all about awakening the remembrance of who you are and what you're capable of.
Yay. So, if we were to give advice, like I said, to a listener that this information is all new to. This is all new.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
all the words they've been hearing and the
So, right.
So what would you say, just to focus on how you want to feel this year?
Yeah, you know, I think what I would want to say is to provide them encouragement
Yeah.
that, you know, even though it looks kind of yucky right now, all of this was supposed to happen. And that everything has to kind of break down in order for the new to come in. And that even though it seems like there is no plan, there is, and we're all a part of that plan. And really tuning into your divine, you know, who is the divine that you seek. It's not about, you know, labels or you know, a specific avenue. Everyone, you know, all of them reach up to Creator. And so it's about really finding that connection within you so that you start to get clear on the messages that you're receiving. Because everyone's getting messages right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. But I believe my takeaway from today is that shift of perception about and it's completely authentic. That's why I can't think of what I want. And as soon as that flipped to what I want for the world, I know that's in my
Yes.
DNA. Like
Yeah.
that, I know that.
I know, I got goosebumps again.
Yes,
I know
me
that.
too.
Every time we come into that, it's like
And-
chills.
Well, and then, you know, I told you yesterday
It's
I
like
taught
trying to fit
Reiki.
into the. It's trying to fit that. You know, when you're plugging something in, and all you gotta do is go like that,
Yeah.
and it works.
Yes.
All the
Right.
people listening to us don't know what I just did. The little plug-in, there's one bigger and one smaller.
Right.
Yeah, just flip it.
You
like-
gotta flip it. Mm-hmm.
And it works.
And it
that's
works.
that's the feeling that I have now.
That
is
me too.
That's what I'm going to be taking on, is what I want for the world, and how do I fit in Tower Grove? Tell me where to go,
Right, exactly.
because I love it here.
Right.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
you just
Yes.
did your Reiki class yesterday.
Yes, yesterday and last weekend, and we were talking about distance Reiki. So I gave them each a little marble globe. It's like 1-inch globe of the world. So, and I said every class I put little crystals that are cut in sacred geometry, shapes around it. And I said, look, you just learned distance Reiki. You can send love, compassion, whatever you want, whatever message you get to send to the world, to the globe right now. And there's so much global energy at the Peace Place.
There
I
is.
mean, it's,
Totally.
I didn't know that before I started it. I think a piece of me underneath wasn't aware of it yet. But that's where I feel like we're all focused right now, whether we are aware of it or not.
Yeah.
Is globally, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So how cool is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
we can send love to the entire globe all the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and inside of that is where you start to really awaken to
Yes.
what your true calling is, what's your purpose, what's your path.
Yeah.
You know, because who you're manifesting at this moment, 5 steps, you know, ahead, might not be what you want in this moment. And Divine's like, hey, I've got a plan for you. Keep going.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to tune into, and it's going to be crystal clear in that moment, and then it shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, what an extraordinary conversation. What an extraordinary way to.
Thank you.
thank you for being
It was
part of our
awesome to be a part of it.
Season finale
Welcome.
here.
Yes.
And I'm going to take on 2019. It looks like a blank space now.
It does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. But I feel now with that shift from the global and then how do I fit in, that's all already done.
Yeah,
It feels done now.
it does.
And I just get to experience it
Right.
and put what I want in.
Totally.
Okay, I'm on board.
I know, me too.
Yes.
So much.
I'm excited. I can't
Yes,
wait.
yes, yes.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So Courtney, would you
Yeah.
like to tell everyone how they can contact you?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, do you guys have show notes, I guess? And I'll just put my website there, or is that
We can
the
do
best
that, but you
way?
can say it
Okay.
too.
Oh, yeah, okay. So my website is CourtneyBlaine.com, and you can find me there. And I run women's circles in the area at different locations. And we have a Facebook group that we run with women's circles. But probably the best way is on my website.
Awesome.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Miss Mariyln, what do you have to say?
I feel like so open right now, so clean and clear and crisp about 2019. And that's exactly, when you were talking several times, I'm like, oh, that was a part of what we have been thinking all along. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast is like, people need to know this.
Yeah.
And when you talked about saying that you wanted to help people feel hopeful and know that they're a part of this and that we all belong, that's one of those things. People need to know this.
You do.
Yeah.
So
do.
thank you for sharing all of your bits of wisdom.
thank
I know there's
you.
way more than that too.
Thank you.
But that was really huge because that's part of what I wanted to share all along.
Well, and I feel like in that collaborative energy, we all came into that at the same time.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it was like boom, we all just phew,
Like the
Yes.
mouse.
we got it.
Yes.
And even though this has been, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. It has been, it's been really fun and eye-opening, and I'm looking forward to. Now we're going to take a little break. This is our last one for this year, but we
Yes.
will come back next year and we will announce that date. I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll come and it'll be shown to us, and we'll be there and doing it.
We
There
will.
we
We will.
But we're still going to be dropping some little things here and there as we move through the season. We want everyone to have a really amazing holiday. And if you're looking at your holiday and it doesn't look too bright or something's happened, go back and listen to our podcast from last Friday,
Yes,
Reinventing
the holiday.
That was really, really powerful. And I just thank all of our guests that have been on the show this year, and everyone connected with in our community here that's been sharing and getting it out. We really, really appreciate it, and we look forward to creating a really powerful season 2.
Yes.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.